speed enforcement and things like that. I don't know if I'd wanna put something in there or not. We don't have to decide now.
That can be a nice one to think
Put a
about.
star beside it to revisit.
Yep,
Yep.
That's all we can do.
So, okay,
okay.
public safety, moving money between the trash lines between the three of them.
Right,
That's a piece of this. We need to increase the tax and mapping line because we do have some boundary line adjustments and things like that this year that need to be implemented. County taxes are going up so I've done the estimate of the county taxes. That's a big cost increase. I underestimated this year, which is why it's so substantial. Insurance costs are adjusted between lines. It was about a $2,000 net increase in insurance costs across all the lines. You'll see some substantial adjustments within the lines.
The street lights went down because of the LED changed over?
We added the contract this year.
Oh,
So, or no, we didn't use it solely this year, so I decreased it and increased the fees from solar panels and then decreased electricity.
gotcha. Okay.
But some of the electricity is gonna be washed out because we anticipate, and I have a note in here somewhere, that we anticipate a mid-year installation of heat pumps as part of the MERP project, which is the $100,000+ renovation project that's free. That'll change our fuel mix.
Gotcha.
So appropriations, no changes.
Did you have a question, Don?
I just want to wish you all a Merry Christmas, and I want to thank you for your service.
Thank you, Don. Thank you for your oversight. We
Thanks for
appreciate it.
coming.
And I'd like to see the letters that you can send out. That would be really helpful.
Yep.
Okay?
Thank you for your help. Have a Merry
Thank you
Christmas.
for the cake at the end.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I'm hiding the piece. I
Enjoy.
took.
Okay. So without anything, there's not a lot of highlights to the end of the administrative budget. Into highway, not much by way of changes on the revenue side whatsoever, other than that which results from other items.
Just, and it's probably been going on for years, I will admit to that. Why do we allocate highway revenue, park revenue, fire department revenue out of property tax and put it there? That's property tax revenue, because my tax bill does not say, oh, you have like $150 going to the highway.
Yeah,
It says property tax, so it's been going on, it's nothing new, but why? Revenues should be, it's property tax revenue, period. It's been allocated through this process to those other departments, and I wanna know why do we do that? And why do we continue to do
why
that?
do we not have a park revenue or park property tax rate, a highway property tax
Yes.
rate, and administrative property tax rate?
Yeah.
Probably just administrative efficiency, but that's something that we could revisit.
no, wait, oh no, we're not, wait, no, we're not doing that.
That's a great place to
No,
introduce it in
you're
upper
asking,
senior.
you're just like, not administrative efficiency, voter understanding. I mean, it's like you can vote, that's one of the issues with going to the Australian ballot, is that the voters can't change the budget. That was my concern. I mean, it's gonna be up to the voters whether they do it or not, because theoretically, if you don't like the park budget, right now, on the floor of the town meeting, you can change, sorry, Willie, I'm not suggesting it. But we're suggesting an increase, you know that. You can change it, and that will be lost. You'd have to vote it all up or all down.
Yeah.
Or vote for different select
That's
board,
one
whatever.
of the downsides.
So I feel like that, your really legitimate concerns about the accounting, it's like, the voters can't micromanage this budget, you know, it's like, they're gonna have to approve it as it stands, or vote different select board members or something like that. I don't see having different property tax rates for different town departments. I
But
find
this
that
is what's gonna be,
unwieldy.
this is what the townspeople are gonna get on for town meeting day to vote on. They're gonna see highway department revenue, 800 some odd thousand.
I think that's, my recollection, and I could be wrong, this is going back to, you know,
Oh, it's
when
going-
Keith was doing it, my recollection is essentially what they're saying is out of this big pot, property tax revenue, this money is going to the highway.
You're
department,
allocating,
you know.
and
It's
then
an
Yeah.
allocation,
how do you-
it's not really a revenue, it's almost semantics issue,
Yeah.
right?
And there's
Yeah.
other
That's,
revenue.
and that's exactly, the way this spreadsheet is set up to calculate property taxes is that it is a residual from expenses, net non-tax revenues. So, and that is how, like, this, you see there's programming in these lines that will create that. So, or up here in the property tax line, you see there's programming that does exactly that. So,
You're allocating it on something, and
it's,
what happens if it's wrong?
But see, this is also coming out of the NEMRIC
well,
program,
no,
the NEMRIC
no,
accounting.
this all relies on this spreadsheet, and there are cross checks within the spreadsheet that make sure all the numbers add up. I'm happy to go through this with anyone who wants to see the way this spreadsheet is works, but that is a very simple function, and that
Oh, yeah, it's an
That-
easy formula.
it's a very simple formula that is designed to do exactly this, and at no point has there been an error in this calculation at any point in any of the budgets.
But the question is, why?
Why?
And I know it's been going on, it's probably been going on 40 years,
Or more than that.
or more than that.
I don't, this type of, is a lot more automated and involves a lot less manual checking than 5 years ago, let alone 40 years ago. 5 years ago, we were still doing this with pen and paper, but yeah, this spreadsheet with its cross checks is something that has more opportunities to catch errors, which is why I don't gut it and move it to a simpler format.
Right.
To make sure that these checking boxes all work. And I'm actually I'm generally very, very, very confident in this, as confident as I can be in a spreadsheet that I've ever produced. But yeah, we talked a lot more about this last year. So to get back on the subject.
The select
Yep.
board that Keith was doing it on the
We-
ledger.
Or
We were doing this on pen and paper 5 years ago.
Never, we went line by line.
Yeah, this is the
And
fifth
that was-
digital budget. I
And
created
when
this
we
spreadsheet
borrowed
from
in
scratch in
anticipation
2021.
of taxes, it was generally a handwritten note from the treasurer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
We don't have that luxury these days.
this spreadsheet was created for the Australian ballot year of 2021
Yeah.
and was accurate for that year, and thank goodness, but on the actual expenses side. And has been built out to include more cross checks and more opportunities to catch errors than any other point. And one of the reasons I have this color coded column rather than it just being numbers is to catch typographical errors as well. The $799,000 on my other sheet earlier would have been caught in something like this, would not have been caught in the state's form. In any case, getting back to highway. Major changes. So in the name of transparency, one strategic thing that was done in this budget is to move all the park expenses for year-round into the park for Willie's payroll, and keep all highway expenses for the 3 highway crewmen on this budget. Because the months do not line up with the pay periods, it makes for messiness on the reporting side, and things like UI and other matters had major adjustments. It was a source of major volatility in our insurance costs within the budget as well. So for simplicity's sake, we experimented with that for 1 year. I moved it back to the simpler, more transparent way to account for things.
Okay, so I'm not following you.
Previously,
Are you saying that Willie's
all of Willie's payroll expenses are in the
is
park.
under the park, even
12
though
months.
part of the year he's working
Yes,
for the highway
12
department?
months. All 12 months are in the park. All 12 months of all 3 highway crewmen are in highway. Much simpler, but more transparent on all these things, and simplifies the administration. So that's just one thing. We can revert that in a future draft of the budget. But one thing we did do was we eliminated this $6,200 swing. It eliminates the differential payments that Mark was previously getting as a mechanic in the department when he was the crewman at the start of the previous budget year. That folded that into the highway budget to offset any compensation changes. Health insurance, that number is 100% accurate for the existing crew mix, and it removes all any excess round numbers. We were criticized for having that $100,000 round number last year. This is a 100% accurate number based on actual costs of what the actual department is. We may want to insert some extra potential cash on hand for potential changes in crew mix if those are anticipated. But that reflects, we ate up all the buffer we had with the increases in staffing changes. Minor adjustments to taxes.
Willie is.
Yes.
Am I on the 12 months right now for the park
Yeah.
day?
No, not the current budget. The current budget is split out.
5.
Yes. The current,
We're looking at 25.
Well, okay, it's fine.
this is 25.
Right.
So the current 24 budget is being accounted for under what was planned in 24, knowing that there were some edge issues about things like when the month started versus the pay periods. So,
But
but
doesn't that make the parks budget look higher than it really is? And the
it
highway
does
department's
in-
budget?
lower, and that's something that is understood. It's something that we can be transparent about, but at least all the numbers are in one place that we can efficiently explain what is going on.
Why wouldn't you
I
just
don't-
do
I
a
don't agree with
GL transfer
Yeah.
between the revenue that you're showing in the park to the highway and then offset the labor? It seems like they would just be GL transfers, like, most of the time, if I have an employee that's non-exempt that goes and works in another department, like, I just code their payroll dollars to that department.
We could
Well,
do,
and if there's problems with knowing what's going on and budgeting for it because of uncertainties, could you wait till the end of the year and then highway pays the park or
Well,
something?
there are a
Well,
number.
exactly,
Yeah,
there's a
yeah.
number of ways you could do it.
Yeah, there's a bunch of ways we can do it. But one thing that does not jive with the way we were doing it was doing it based on a month category. It could be X number of pay periods, or something like
Okay.
that, where we
Because the
go and
months don't
calculate
match
it,
up.
because the
Okay.
months and the pay
The other
periods do not
thing
match
you
up.
could do is combined park and highway payroll together,
No.
and then itemize it out in your expenditures for park and for highway based on where it was coded.
That is, one of the real motivations for departments of public works is it really does encourage the accounting side simplification on exactly this kind of stuff. So a DPW town would be doing something almost exactly like that.
Yeah,
We're not there,
But we're not
so-
there, so we could easily, yes, there are multiple ways we could do this but for this draft and for simplicity's sake, if we want to go and change the way we account for these things, we can implement that in future drafts of the
Well, I
budget.
agree with you that it makes the budget for the park
It's
look much higher,
deceptive.
it's
It makes
deceptive,
it look like we
yeah.
have a full-time employee for the park and we don't. I understand about the months. I mean, if we can do it by pay period or something, I just feel that the most honest thing would be to have those expenses in the highway department. And even if it's a best estimate and we have to make adjustments, that's not surprising.
Yeah.
Use the pay periods, not the months. I get that about the months.
Well, we could always do a transfer if we needed to because in theory, one would have a surplus and if one was running a deficit and the other
Or
one had a
suppose
surplus.
there
we
was, knock on wood, there was some kind of horrific winter that didn't end, and so Willie had to stay with the highway department and
That
couldn't
way-
start at the park.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, and so then you have more pay periods, and then you have an
Yeah,
adjustment.
that- it's-
I
it's
just
definitely-
jinxed us, I really.
What was
No,
that
so
year?
sorry.
There was a year that there wasn't a summer. It was
18,
like
15, and
Yeah,
frozen
something
death.
like that.
But yeah,
That was
so-
a volcano.
So we're gonna hold that in our pocket. Think you guys.
I have a
I'm making
question
an
about-
asterisk.
I have a question about the
Asterisk.
health insurance because you're running the actuals, but are we, you have an accurate actual number currently
Yes, that is based
for
on current
25,
status.
based on current status, but are we putting any money in a reserve for a potential change of status with any employee across the board within the organization?
No,
They could adjust, I mean, because it could skew the health insurance number up. In a life change, somebody can make a change at any time with a life change.
yeah, and that's,
So,
yeah, that is something that I wanna do. I've typically done the bare minimum, like, straight up what the costs are budget. And what I did was last year, I put my money into that for that
Okay.
This number does not include any of that. These are the
Okay.
best estimates of what the reality is.
And this number for all the labor numbers doesn't have any wage increases in it.
Nope.
No, for the,
No,
for the
that's
most
where
part.
we are.
Yeah, so
that's the next sheet.
I know it is, I just wanna be sure
Yeah,
everything.
so
is-
Yeah.
Can I just, on the park, if you, also look at their, expenses, yes, are going up, but also their allocation for property taxes is going up a little bit over 34 grand.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, so ultimately, yes, this is a story. Some of that was covered by extra funding in the highway department, some of that in the previous, so some of that was a transfer that was then eaten by the increasing cost of healthcare in this budget. But yeah, this is a bare minimum budget that we can then add money into for increasing staff compensation, increasing buffer for unanticipated events. But I wanted to set the minimum baseline of that which is keeping the government operating at our existing status in this draft. And then in the final draft, in a future draft, we can make sure that we insert enough air, dare I say, or enough structure of government or structure of employee status, buffer into the budget to the point that we are comfortable. So, yeah, that's what I'm trying to portray of this draft of the budget is it really can't go down from here. It has very little choice project where you guys can add in choice projects into these things. So things like moving on, we have insurance changes, trash service changes. It does build in the water rate increase. We decreased our culverts line, knowing that we have a lot of culvert inventory from this year. Going into the winter, we increased the savings or the budget for paving to cover the realized expenses that match the scope of the existing job we did this year. So we know that we have budgeted enough to do a job of similar scope. Increasing the signs budget, knowing that we have some failing signs also in the budget. Notably, overall, a decrease in Class 2 roads funding. Overall, looking at Class 3, a lot of that is made up in Class 3 because some of that culvert money is moved to Class 3 culverts, but only it's $2,000 less than what was cut in Class 2. That reflects a increase in some anticipated projects on Class 3 roads, like the Better Roads project. That was already planned. It also reflects the increase also reflects an increase in chloride budget, under the understanding that we under budgeted this year. That is more in line with actuals.
Question, Sylvia.
What kind of paving do we have? I see a blacktopping line item, but I don't know, would we be planning any big paving projects?
We are hoping to do the Warmbrook Road paving project this year.
The
South-
whole road,
south
not the
lane.
patching?
We will be, yes,
South end.
yes,
South
we will,
lane.
and that's gonna come out of capital. That line itself is for
Patching?
patching jobs
Okay.
and work that is not major capital expense.
So where's the resurfacing? That's the line, resurfacing?
Special highway is the line, is
Oh,
the
special
CR
highway?
No, special highway is the paving front.
Where?
That's not in
Down
this
at the
budget.
very,
Yeah,
it's
so
not
that I
in
didn't
here,
do
but it would be
capital
down
is not
in
in this
capital
budget.
reserves.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
there
done.
are allocations to the reserve fund.
allocation, spending in the reserve funds are not in this budget at this point in time.
No, and the numbers were for 2023,
Correct.
Right.
not 2024, so you could just stop looking at column C
Yeah,
altogether.
there's no reason to be looking at column C. There's, the changes in here are
Yeah, but
really.
you have the sinking fund for the town truck going up by 10,000.
Yes, that I will explain when I get there. Maintenance, we were really close to the line on our maintenance, this year. We were pretty similar to that 23 number, so we wanted to put, as our equipment ages, we wanted to get a little bit more money into the maintenance line. But one thing the board had as a mandate for this year was cut in new equipment spending. You can see $8,000 in reduction in equipment spending in the highway department right here, under trucks and equipment. So that's something that we really took to heart, and that is reflected across the highway budget in particular, as well as the park.
Where are you?
So right here under trucks.
Trucks and equipment?
So we have a reduction in rentals from
The 5.
from
Okay.
6,000 to 1,000,
Below that.
and equipment purchase lease from 4,000 to 1,000. This now reflects only small equipment that we may be purchasing, or like a one-off rental for a day.
Okay.
Mostly rolling is expected to be at that budget if we are to pay for some rental equipment. A new area in the budget this year is this, I don't have a label on it, but it is other miscellaneous, total miscellaneous expenses. This is a group of expenses that were not easily accounted for. We didn't have a group heading on them before, so it's a new sub-area, but none of this is new funding or new areas. It's just grouped in a different way. And all of this is, the changes are grants and aid management fees and the road erosion inventory fees that we agreed to this year with Jim Henderson and ECRC for the two contracts that we have. So, reserve funding, we increased the truck fund. That is in line with what the capital plan says we need to do to stay on top of our truck funding for anticipated truck purchases in the future. If we want to delay that, we can.
Bumping it by 10?
But it does, the capital plan last year did plan for an increase of $10,000 this year, and so that is just in line with the capital plan. If we want to, you'll get the capital plan in January for review. We would always hope that our capital plan number matches these numbers. But yeah, that is what was in the capital plan from last year. So, into the fire department. Overall increase of just under $5,000 between the three towns, $3,000 in change for us. Workman's compensation insurance was way down. The medicals were up to cover the physicals for the existing members. Common Wi-Fi services costs are up. Otherwise, we're talking small changes of $500 or $1,000.
Yeah.
No increase in the sinking fund after the $15,000 increase last year. So $5,000 spread across the three towns, with Arlington paying a population-based share of 63%. Cemeteries, minor adjustment increase.
Question. Go ahead.
So,
PJ.
I talked to Jamie about this earlier, but I missed it in their overall budget meeting, but is there a capital plan? I know we used to, and I used to enjoy coming and sitting in front of the select board the old paper way, and we would have everything written out. Like, for the stipend plans, we used to have 3% every 2 years. Stipends haven't been raised in, I don't know how many years.
So we can increase that.
And time is,
6 or 8
I mean, it's a lot of time.
No, I remember the first year I was on the select board, we did it by pen and paper, and they came in and we
Yep.
talked
But-
about it.
We used
but
to have all
actually
that laid out.
But
We-
actually,
Yeah.
I have a recollection of sometime in the past few years where we discussed increasing the stipend and whoever was here from the fire department said we would rather have it go to
I
equipment.
remember that.
So I'm totally open to that.
To
But,
me, it doesn't
you know-
matter, I just knew we had a plan, you talk about like capital plans and all
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
It's going back to when me and Jamie were here, you know, we had a plan every 2 years that went up, just like your wages do, I mean,
I
you
think
know,
that's true.
as an officer, as any officer, right? So that's what the stipends go towards, to anybody that doesn't
yeah,
know.
yeah.
There's a lot more way above and beyond
Oh, yeah,
what a firefighter does.
oh, yeah.
Like, I'm a true volunteer, I'm not saying that I'm looking for, but I'm just saying, we had a plan in place that hasn't been.
And they should be incrementally.
Yeah. So,
But
So
we-
first
we
one,
were
a little
told,
bit.
but we were, when we
Yeah, I
offered
remember
to do
that
that, we
conversation
were
with
told,
Mr. King.
we'd rather have it, he was the chief at that time.
Yep.
We can have another discussion, but the overall allocation can't grow too fast. So if we put more towards the stipend, which I would be fine with, there's gonna be less towards something else.
Yeah, well, and that's what we used to do ourselves, and
Yeah,
Nick, we knocked some stuff down.
Yep.
As you see.
yeah, it's,
But when we used to do it pen and paper, we would get that sheet that you guys talked about from the treasurer. I
Right,
remember doing it for years with
right,
Jamie.
right.
And we'd go, okay, this line we wanna
Yeah,
drop so
yeah.
much, that line we're gonna raise.
Yeah.
Now, this spreadsheet's nice, don't get me wrong, but when you're looking at it quick, sitting at it right, and you're just hearing drop this is raising, that's not the same as when we used to sit.
No, but
And
this,
figure it out.
this is a
It's the same
preliminary.
number.
No,
It's the
yeah,
same-
yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like we used to do.
I mean,
This
I'm not
is where
into
who
computers
gives
that
the
much.
input.
no, and
This
I'm
is-
happy to
yeah.
sit down with anyone who wants to do it.
But I mean,
to
like,
this.
if you look at, okay, so if you wanted to give 3% on the stipends, I mean, really, you reduce the actual, or you've reduced office supplies by $500, so you could really give in this
3.7%
example, you could give a increase of 3% in the stipend and not really change
Not change the budget about
And
the
one.
budget
Yeah.
from what it was the previous year.
I think, I just threw $500 extra into this line with the calculation, that's
It's almost
3.7%.
Yeah, it's almost 4%.
That's a nice clean $500, 63% of that goes to Arlington, so that keeps that it keeps it just under 3% on the taxpayers of Arlington. So $500 is
And I
an
mean-
easy number that's close to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So without objection, I'll throw that into this draft. Because yeah, there hasn't been an adjustment to that in my memory of at least 3 years. So with that implemented, that puts the increase at just under $5,500. Moving on to cemeteries. Slight increase in revenues because revenue's been tracking above budget for now 3 to 4 years running, with most of that looking to be offset for one special project, which is updating Nemrick's system to cover the lot sales from the last couple of years, which have not been successfully updated, as the commissioners were, fell behind on things. So this is a special one-off project, $600. I had a fight with them in open meeting. If you want to see my wife and I having an argument over something petty in open meeting, we had a conversation over whether this project should be $1,000 or $600. And I won, so it's $600. But yeah, we did have a conversation about the uses of the perpetual care fund, things like that. But this is a special one-off project, and the cemetery commissioners offset $450 of that with anticipated new revenues that have been tracking above trend from 4 years ago. So minor adjustment in the cemeteries. Park, almost all of this park change, as you'll see, results from the shift over from highway from the previous year. So we can make the adjustment however you see fit in the final draft budget. We've already been over that, but you can be rest assured that things like the taxes line, the pension line will also be adjusted over in highway as relevant. This moves everything to all be in the park.
I mean, when compensation changes, you have the labor, the health insurance, and the workman's comp maybe, and the pensions. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things that change
Yeah,
all at once.
there are pieces that,
Even the childcare line could change, you know. so it's
well,
like-
the child care line are all aggregated over under administration.
okay.
But in any case, the taxes line changes, the pension line changes, and, and then the workman's comp and numbers and things like that don't update till next year.
I got it,
So,
got it.
but the two big things that update are taxes and pension.
What's the difference in the coloring between like the orange
It's,
and the
it's all
brighter
scale.
red?
Red,
That's the total.
red is increase by larger number.
Okay. So it's a matter of scale then.
Yeah,
That's all
if I say eliminate, this line, you'll see
And
that's
that's
fading green.
from,
Yeah.
and that's from the change from the highway.
Yeah,
Like-
so the green is good, or green is down, red is up. And yellow is true neutral. So, okay,
So wait a minute, if there was that change, was there a similar decrease in the highway?
no, because because that was eaten up by mostly healthcare cost increases and changes in compensation.
But we were down a crew member for
That
significant,
would be reflected in cash on hand, but not the overall budget line. There were different amounts of extra funds built into the budget for buffer in the previous budget year. This,
Again, you need to see the actuals.
yeah,
Right.
this budget does not put any extra funds for any of that in, as we discussed. So we can insert that at the end, but yeah, to reflect the bare minimum budget, I kept everything as the actuals. In any case, these are the actuals in park. You see,
no,
as projected.
that's not the actual, that's the budget.
No, these are the budget based on the current numbers, sorry.
Right,
Um,
right, but if we.
Yeah.
So if we chose to put the highway department part of that labor back in highway, would it be?
It would increase dollar for
41
dollar.
Pardon?
So we moved 4 months of this, or a third of this, say we
Right.
moved $18,000 in, and
It would essentially be all this going back.
it would just be moved up to the highway line, but
Right.
the overall final
Would be
numbers
just-
do not change, it
Right,
just changes
right,
how it's
right.
reflected highway versus
Where
park.
it's-
I got it.
Um, But yes, this does reflect all air being taken out of the budget.
Yeah, Steve, go ahead.
Since you mentioned, how much buffer was put into last year's budget then in the highway department?
$30,000 as I discussed at town meeting.
Okay, I just
Precisely
wondering.
$30,000.
So, and then it got replicated again?
No,
Okay.
all of that got eaten up by healthcare cost increases and changes in structure of the staff. And actually, it wasn't even enough. We needed another $10,000 in budget to cover just the people we have now. That killer 15% increase across the board this year really manifests through the budget in the top line figures. And you'll see, if you take the tally of those numbers, it more or less adds up to be the bulk of all the change, at least in this draft of the budget. So, finishing this off, minor adjustments to insurances and administration in this, minor adjustments to the park building costs, including implementing the water rate changes approved earlier. Maintenance, where I put a note of that we're hoping to do some bathroom repairs as part of the maintenance line this year, depending on where we're at. Golf course improvements, that is a conversation for the board, and to be discussed with the individual who's been helping us look at the future of the golf course, because the golf course will require some investment and how much the taxpayers are willing to bear in that. I level funded it in this draft of the budget, but it may need a bit more funding, or the board may need to think about that. It is the biggest question in the park of the needed investments in the golf course, and I am hesitant to make any statements in any particular
So we
direction.
gotta flag that
Until,
one.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, we
I
need to discuss
have a
that.
flag on that, you see my little purple dot,
See the flag.
that is there for that conversation. And also, in the final draft of the budget, is gonna be renumbered to be down under golf course. The treasurer, earlier in the year, when we were doing the budget, put it into what I don't think is the best spot. So, fields and grounds, minor decrease in fields and grounds maintenance based on lower anticipated lawnmower maintenance.
That'll be moved down to fields and grounds? or-
No, here, let me just finish the rest of this. There's a lot of adjustments in the equipment budget as per the mandate this year, $7,000 net decrease in equipment budget, which is mostly, we don't really use a lot of maintenance. We rebalanced our fuel mix, so you'll see major changes in diesel versus gas, to move move $1,000 from diesel to gas, and then zeroing out the equipment purchase line. We are not doing, per the board's mandate, we are not planning on buying meaningful park equipment this year. So that, and then the capital reserve fund for the park does not change. So as you can see, net payroll was adjusted up the $41,000 with the shift from highway. Overall, it is more than the changes. So it is the park would see a net decrease in funding based on the reduced equipment budgets, but for the payroll adjustments. So that is the end of the base budget. Final future budgets will have capital reserve and things like that implemented.
And we have received none of the appropriation requests for the.
No, nothing new yet, and we actually did receive our biggest appropriation, has put in a request confirming the, a level funding request this year. So that is really reassuring that the rescue squad is not seeking more funding, at least per the letter that you got, today. So, we do anticipate there may be some minor adjustments to the library budget. They had signaled earlier that they anticipate doing some petitioning for some amount of increase in their appropriation. But that is the only one I've heard from in that.
Okay.
So that's your budget preview.
To be continued.
To be continued.
Okay, could I just ask about the summary stuff on the last couple of pages? Is this all just so tentative that it just doesn't, I mean, like, because you actually have, if you go down, oh wait, where?
So if I go over,
Go over,
so a couple of boxes that you can look at that are helpful illustrations of where we're at and where we're anticipating going. This difference year-on-year property tax relies on none of the actuals. So it does not rely on the cash on hand figure as anticipated. So based on
what does it mean? I don't understand
so
what it means.
this means an anticipated spending, spending from property taxes increasing by about $97,000, and that's almost all healthcare.
But then down on the, on the left, below that, go down in that column, go down there.
Yep.
What is that?
So this
The
is
yellow.
the yellow is that is not an accurate property tax figure until we know what the cash on hand figure is going to be. And importantly, this cash on hand figure it was based on spending in this version of the spreadsheet. It is not based on the actual, which had a lot of one-time revenues this year. So the final version of this spreadsheet will have a tax rate estimate that accurately reflects the tax rate what it actually was. That was decreased by those one-time revenues that were in the budget this year. So yes, we take that with a grain of salt, but understand the numbers that underlie this show an anticipated increase in non-tax revenues of about $12,000, an anticipated increase in property taxes of about $97,000,
Which would be 3 cents.
which is about
If-
3 cents, and it's almost entirely,
Putting aside the grand list growth or anything like that.
which we don't anticipate much of. you see that
And but that would be 3 cents without even doing wage increases.
yes, the property tax environment this year was always going to be scary. And the property tax environment, in part because we had all these one-time revenues this year that put substantial downward pressure on the rates. So yes, we anticipate you see that truck fund increase that is reflected here in the on-ballot appropriations number. You see some changes in the non-tax revenues, but yeah, this is 2025. So in any case, yeah, we are in an environment with major economic headwinds led by health insurance in a year where my health insurance is making up 50% of the potential property tax increase. And it's something that no one's happy about, but ultimately a 15% overall increase in the underlying cost of healthcare will offset pretty much any bare bones, anything we take out of the budget. It's a scary budget environment. I can't sugarcoat that. It's not something any other municipal official will. But just to get by, this is what we're saying, without almost any discretion whatsoever, with almost no raises in any meaningful way. But it's something that we're going to have to be honest with the taxpayers about, that we saw a major property tax decrease. We held taxes steady this year in a way that no other town did. And but next year is not going to be like that at all. And that doesn't mean we also didn't have a bunch of good, positive revenue. Our delinquent tax list went down this year and was up and yielded some substantial revenues.
But we don't see these. But we don't see these.
You don't see these, but
here, those are not accounted for.
these are not
Those
here.
aren't accounted for
But
in this.
but ultimately, I can say, like, we kept our belts tight this year. Our departments were generally under budget. Fire went right up to the line, but we had a lot of expense in the fire this year. But highway also had a good winter season that didn't involve a lot of spending end of season last year. We didn't buy a lot of the culvert that we were expecting. So we did see some substantial. We will come into the year with some substantial cash on hand. It's just not going to be what it was last year. So yeah, that's the preview. I'm happy to discuss this later. I'll plug the final actuals in when they're done, and we will be having these conversations every meeting until we have a budget that's been approved.
We have 2 questions? No, just one.
So
Okay.
the wages for employees is not gonna happen?
No,
No, we
they're
haven't
just
even
not
had that
here.
discussion.
We haven't got there.
They're not here yet.
They're
We
just
haven't
the
talked
numbers
about it
aren't
yet.
Yeah,
entered into the spreadsheet.
These aren't
We
in
haven't
this
talked about that.
discussion, but we haven't had that
yeah,
discussion.
we need.
Okay.
Yeah, we will figure that out once we have a baseline on which to operate, including the healthcare, which was the biggest thing that was going to go into this and change.
Right.
So,
I mean, I think it's very important that we do the wage increases despite the healthcare, and I would be willing to cut other areas in the budget, even sinking fund allocations, in order to get that done.
Yep.
I think that was my understanding last year, given the uncertainty, we couldn't do it, and I feel we have to do it this year.
Mhm.
And
Agreed.
if we have to defer some other things, we defer some other things, because I think that's really important, especially if we're gonna have to start talking about changing the healthcare. We need to be sure that we've got our employees.
well, and these numbers are all public. This is an aggregate number that puts a percentage increase on.
Where is that? Is that?
This is
in
the second sheet.
Workbook.
Oh, it's further in.
Yeah,
Okay.
I programmed this all last year, and everything
Okay, so
still
this
works.
is, so this is really interesting. So 3% would be 19,000, 4% would be 24,000, that's not even a penny.
Yeah.
5% would
I'm
be
actually
29, that would be a
gonna these
penny.
2 columns because that involved a bunch of calculations about trading, about some special one-off
Tax
things like
change rate, factoring in raises,
those numbers can be set aside. Look at the this orange column. That's your operative column here. That if you give everyone a 3% raise, it'll cost $20,000. If you give everyone a 4% raise, it's just under 25. If you give everyone a 5% raise, it'll be about 29.
but but why does it say tax increase with TA?
There were a bunch of special considerations last year
Okay,
where
alright, so I
you
won't
were
worry
tri-
about that.
there were
But
things
this-
that you were just negotiating with my own
Right,
office
right.
in lieu of
right.
raise that
Right,
where you gave
right,
raises to other people
right.
in previous years.
Okay, but the beige, that column, that's valid.
That's a valid column.
And so that's where we wanna think in terms of, so if we did a 4% raise,
That's what it looks like.
that's what it looks like, and it's a little less than a penny on the rate, so that would mean finding 24,000 in the budget that could be cut.
Yep.
So that we could do
Yeah,
that.
you could effectively add it to this column in this property tax year-on-year number of it's existing about $100,000. It would be about
No, because I'm gonna offset it with some other cuts.
if you can find somewhere else to offset that's meaningful. I would love
Sure,
to
we
find.
can go back
can
and
cut
cut
some of the
everything by
sinking
20%.
We can cut some of the sinking funds. I mean, I
Yeah,
know,
we can-
I understand
yeah,
the
we can-
principle of sinking funds, but, we've
we-
got time to catch up on all of those,
Yeah,
and
we can starve ourselves a capital, and then we can set the way.
Well,
I'm
no,
just
you
talking
could just
about-
go to like
I'm talking
supplies
about
and
1
say,
year,
you
so-
go to supplies and don't buy the Sharpies, buy the Quill brand and, save yourself
Yeah,
20%.
I'm happy to show you what the actuals are in these things, and when we have the actuals,
the
that
big
Yeah, we
Yeah.
don't have
You can
those
find
yet, so.
24 grand.
We
I
can find 24 grand.
I would be
Yeah,
I would be
this is-
surprised
it's
to
a
find
$2 million
24 grand without substantial cuts to highway materials. We can find 24 grand to gravel in one shot, and
I mean, it's not uncommon that you go back on a budget and you find to
Oh, yeah.
reduce 20% in different areas. And do people like it? No, not necessarily, but sometimes it's what you have to do.
No, it's,
We used a lot of ARPA money, we bought a lot of equipment, we shouldn't have to
No,
buy
it's true.
equipment for a
And-
while,
oh,
so.
but that's what I said. I already cut all the equipment budgets and they're reflected in this. This
You
is the,
increased the town truck or one of them by
Yeah,
10,000,
we
you
can
don't
do-
have to do that.
and then we'll be 10.
Then
we'll
we'll
be
just
10,000
wait a
short.
year,
Yeah.
to buy the truck. I mean, when you don't have enough money, you don't save as much. The
Right.
sinking funds have been a magnificent tool for Arlington,
Yeah.
but they can go up and down. When
Yeah,
you have
and
time, sometimes they go
But
down.
yeah, here's some of the examples. It's like it is okay. We will have like I can find a way, like I can engineer a transition to pull say $2,000 out of supplies budgets. It's going to involve all the printers coming out in a full printer consolidation. That's fine. I'm happy to have that fight within town hall. We're removing the printers from every office.
Why?
No, because that's how we find $2,000 in the supplies budget. It's we have two printers, one on the first floor, one on the second floor, and that's perfectly fine. We eliminate those budgets. I've been hoping to do something like that for years.
Wait a minute. The same amount of printing is gonna happen, the same amount of ink is gonna be used up, whether you have one printer or two printers.
Yeah.
I don't buy that.
No, and that highlights and we would need to find ways to print less, and that's fine.
No,
Likewise.
printing is not what we need.
But
Let's come back to this.
We'll come back to
We
We'll
need
come
to
back to
have
this,
it figured
but
out.
yeah.
Fire's got a question.
Yeah.
Fire chief has a question.
I understand what you're saying with sinking funds, but I can honestly tell you, we've been through this for years and years and years. And I don't care what sinking fund you cut, you're never gonna catch it up because we're never catching up now.
Yeah.
We are,
I
so
agree.
like, for instance, right here, our next truck is 2028, cause I just looked at this with Nick. He has 430,000 at 2028. We just pay 550 and we don't buy anything above, anything extra. We just pay 550 in 2023 or 2024. By 2028, that's gonna be
Well, we are,
750.
and we talked with the reps, and it's like
So if
750
you
now,
cut sinking
and we
funds,
know
we're never
it's
gonna
gonna
catch
be-
up. I understand raises, like,
Yep.
and I'm in the same, my uncle's in the same boat over there. But there's sometimes, like you guys said, you just paid a whole bunch in health insurance, that raise might not be as much in the real world. Government's different, don't get me wrong, I used to work for the state. We lost 3% 2 years. They tell us we'd make it up, you never make it up. But when you start cutting sinking funds, we don't catch up in Arlington already, you're never gonna catch up.
Yeah, it's something that you all have the spreadsheet. I would love to hear anywhere that you think we can find a way to cut $500 here, $1,000 there, delaying certain purchases. I can probably find $5,000 relatively easy of delaying projects and small things, throughout the budget.
Well,
But
I think
finding,
it would be helpful
Yeah.
to get the actuals where we're currently
Yeah.
at, so that I
Yeah.
can go through and do
Yeah, we'll
that
get-
And
analysis.
the true cash on hand.
Yeah,
And the
Because if
true
that's
cash
really
on hand,
low, we may
absolutely.
be totally screwed.
Right.
If that's higher, then we can
Yeah.
decide
We'll
what
have-
happens to it.
right, that's why this is a preliminary discussion, but yeah, this is.
But it shows us what our,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
And this is exactly the conversation every municipality in the state is having right now. This is a story in newspapers everywhere. This is exactly the conversation you guys should be having. So I appreciate you taking the time on this to look through it, knowing the limitations on not having the actuals. We'll get you everything you need going into the next meeting.
You see, I feel as if, since I joined the board, my rule of thumb is to try to keep property tax rates steady. And then when you're forced to increase them, you're forced to increase them. And we have increased them over the time. But you wanna be aiming to keep them
Keep it
steady.
steady.
And then you really have to justify that increase.
And historically, that's what this board has always done, is
Yes.
kept them very steady, so.
Yeah, and some of that is we're now having to catch up because we did a bunch of that work to keep them steady by undersaving, and that was a very systematic thing. that
But
if
wait
you
a
go
minute,
back to
there are
last budget.
towns that don't save anything.
Oh, yeah.
They lease everything.
And they're,
The fact that we save it all is unbelievable.
It is.
We may have situations where our sinking funds are late, so we wait an extra year before we buy it, or we have to do a special allocation that year, a big allocation that year to buy the fire truck or to buy the town truck.
it's,
But I mean, then you know, okay, this is going up by 2 cents because we're buying it.
our budgets in the past were a lot less sensitive to healthcare costs than they have been in the last 5 years. And the staffing mix changes within
Got
our
it.
government,
No,
decisions
that's
that
got
we
it.
made on
I've
that
got that.
were a
I've got
big
that.
deal.
I understand
So,
that. I understand
but in any
that.
case, that,
But
yeah.
that's also, I mean, I know healthcare is gonna continue to be a problem, but we won't always have the same changes in mixes that we had this year.
Yeah,
So in future years, it may be more.
We're getting given our head count, we're getting toward
Right.
the top of the range
The
of
families and all that.
the number of
kind stuff.
families in
Yes,
our staffing
yes.
mix.
So, yeah,
From a historically low period
right,
a couple of years
Right.
ago.
right.
So, yeah, we'll see. We hope that the legislature does something to address healthcare costs in the next year
No,
or two.
don't
They-
expect
I-
that.
We
Don't
can
expect
dream,
anything.
but that's it. So
No, but I think it does highlight the question of the health plan that we're operating
Yeah,
with and that discussion.
the underlying,
And employee contribution
Yeah,
over
exactly,
time and
exactly.
figuring out how we phase that in.
Exactly.
okay. So-
Okay, the next item. on
Thank you,
the,
Nick. Thank
next
you very
item
much.
I
is
appreciate you got
overview,
your time.
And that's helpful,
Um,
but we definitely to be continued.
Okay.
The next item on the agenda is for the covered bridge repairs. We need to authorize a draft of an RFP. It isn't even approving it yet. So, you wanna cover that next?
Yes, so actually Jamie added this, it's just a matter of you guys adding, authorizing myself to begin drafting the RFP for the repairs to the covered bridge as we previously discussed, at a meeting in the past. So,
Do you wanna make that motion, Jake?
Yeah, I would make a motion for Nick to begin the RFP process of writing the RFP for the covered bridge repairs, which includes a new deck, straightening the bridge, leveling it,
Hey, John?
siding, rafter repairs. It needs a lot of work and paint,
Yep.
so.
And I'll
Is there a
second.
Motion made by Jamie and seconded by Matt to authorize town administrator Zias to draft a RFP for major repairs to the covered bridge in West Arlington. All those-
Point of discussion is that this is just drafted, we're gonna approve it.
it's not
prior
gonna
to being
be
issued.
circulated,
Correct.
yeah, this is
Very
a
good.
draft.
It's not gonna be circulated until.
Only posted after authorization for something
Very
like
good.
this.
Just
I
a
would
draft
like,
RFP.
I personally would like to see this project, we've got the money in the fund for it, happen as soon as mud season is over with, so that it can be done prior to the summer season when it gets really busy down there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because Benedict Bridge is not gonna be right off the bat, so we need to make sure that this bridge is solid and secure.
Very good.
No, that sounds good.
Everybody, any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. You have your marching orders.
Got it. We'll be drafting that on Christmas Eve. And it, I'm excited.
The next item is the salt,
Road salt vendor.
salt vendor, Eastern Salt Company.
Yes, we got a late bid on road salt, and that was cheaper than our existing
They came in
bids.
from Eastern Salt Company in Queens, New York.
Yep.
And it's $79.69 a ton delivered to Arlington.
Yeah, which is about $10 less than we're paying per ton. So, and they have a bunch of the contracts in our immediate area. So, I'm seeking a motion to add them to our roster of salt vendors for up to 400 tons at that $79 and change rate.
Have we ever dealt with them before?
No, but the town of Sunderland has, and they're really pleased with the product. So.
It
Yeah,
says
you got
Town of Arlington, 122 Chittenden Drive.
highway garage.
I would,
Yeah, they don't get mail there, do they?
Yeah.
They do?
Yeah, they're confident in being able to deliver to us.
No, is there
No,
a
they don't
post,
give you
is there a post office box for the highway garage?
No,
no,
No.
just a 911
yeah, that's
address.
just the address. That's the delivery
That's
address.
the delivery address. I'm sure they have a separate billing address.
I would wanna be sure about that. I don't know where this came
It'll
from.
get to us.
Yeah, we'll make sure that that's the case.
Okay, so because it was cheaper and you got good reports, and we're not committing to buying any particular amount, right? This is
Correct.
just
Not to
adding
exceed
to
400.
our
Not to exceed.
portfolio of
Correct.
vendors.
We're not committed to that purchase.
Right.
Correct.
We're allowed to purchase up to 400 tons.
I know. Okay.
You just need me to sign this,
I think we have to vote on it.
Yeah, I don't think you voted yet.
but,
I make a motion to authorize purchase of an amount not to exceed 400 tons at a rate of $79.69 delivered from Eastern Salt Company in, did you say Queens?
Queens,
Queens, New York.
and authorize me to sign.
And authorize board chair Harvey to sign the contract.
I'll second.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Matt to authorize the purchase up to 400 tons from the Eastern Salt Company at a rate of $79.69 per ton. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. Okay, Benedict Crossing reimbursement sign off. The project is done. We have
No. The
study. The study project is done. The study project is done. We have a study. Here's a copy.
Let's go.
It was
Public document.
It is a public document. It came in under budget because they didn't need to have quite so many meetings about this. So we need an authorization for the TA-65 form in the amount, that is in the bottom right corner.
Yep.
That reflects the town share of 10%.
I don't understand.
This is a 90-10 split.
So-
That's what we're getting reimbursed.
Yeah, reimbursement of $79,991.46.
But what is this motion doing?
Authorize the TA-65 form. That's all you have to say. That's TA-65
That's-
reimbursement.
Request for reimbursement.
Request for
Okay.
reimbursement.
I make a motion to authorize the request for reimbursement from the state in the amount of $79,991.46 and the full board
Everybody-
needs
we all
to sign
sign
it.
it.
Yeah.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion made by Cynthia and seconded by Matt to authorize the signing of the reimbursement request from the state of Vermont for the
So, we've already paid them.
bridge study.
Yes, the last bill is on this warrant.
Okay, and so this money goes back into the highway budget?
It goes back into the CRF bridges. That was
The
where,
CRF bridges?
if we paid it out of CRF bridges, it'll reimburse back into CRF bridges.
And did we say that there was about 240,000 in there?
I forget off the top of my head what those numbers are, but
I think so.
yeah, it's close. I'm not exactly sure
Okay,
what was paid last year versus this year and things like that.
okay.
But
So Glenn's the only one that hasn't signed.
he doesn't need to sign it. It's all the members present.
That's fine.
Um,
We're good.
excellent.
Did we vote?
We need a vote.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you.
Any dissent? No?
And will we each get a copy of the,
It's already in your
It's in
email.
our email.
And I have a
I'm
print.
not printing that.
There you go. You happen to be ready for it.
I would look, yes. So that's good to go. If we can do the warrants and then we can jump into the executive session, or vice versa.
And we can do the warrant, because
Yeah, let's
there's
do the
no
warrant.
action coming out of the executive session tonight,
Correct.
right?
Correct. I don't have anything particular to report beyond what's in my report. It's late. Ask me questions individually if you want.
Okay.
So, no other
I don't
business.
think I had anything that was urgent in there, so.
Who wants
Most
to
of
do-
my report this period was a lot of Fire Act grant. So that is in as of this
A lot
morning.
of what?
Fire Act grant application for the SCBA's that we previously discussed.
Okay, I'm gonna make a motion to approve water department, what are the key things? FW Web, new equipment, $2,000, Green Mountain Power, $1,100. I make a motion to approve check warrant report number WD 24 dated 12/13/24. Motion to approve the amount of $4,680.22.
Well, second?
Motion's made by Cynthia and seconded by Matt to approve check warrant report WD 24 with the water department expenditures of $4,680.22. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Okay, I'll be making a motion concerning, the town's regular expenses. I do see, things like BCRC dues, 5,600, etc. Bathroom partitions, I assume that's for the park,
Yeah, that was our.
4,300. ARPA, capital tractor, 7,455. Was that highway?
That was
blade?
ARPA,
That's the
highway.
mowing, that's the ARPA.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's important to note that
Yeah.
it's on our bill, but it's actually being funded by ARPA running.
Yeah, this has a bunch of ARPA
I can
items on
see
it.
that, yeah. There's some Earl's truck repairs, tailgate spreader, 4,500. Bridge study, here we go, 26,882, so that's, possibly the final payment to MSK. Peckham Industries, 12,600. Oh no, that's insurance. Peckham Industries, 5,900. Any other big ones? The York Rake Salem Farm Supply, 5,300, that was ARPA. Trail Boss, is that ARPA, 7,500.
With
So there's
one
a-
little non-ARPA, but it was like $50.
Yeah, so
Um,
there's a bunch of, and again, we use the ARPA to buy these equipment things, and now property taxpayers won't need to pay for them. So I make a motion to approve check warrant report number 25 dated 12/16/24, being the unpaid invoices for the general fund for the town of Arlington. Motion to approve the amount of $107,170.59.
I'll second.
Motion's made by Cynthia and seconded by Matt to approve check warrant report number 25. Total amount of $107,170.59. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Dan, got a clarification. The 26,000 that we paid to MSK, is that coming out of the capital reserve fund?
Yep, CRF bridges and then reimburse the CRF.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure it's
Less
not
than-
coming out of.
No, good
Less
point.
than-
Just wanna,
We
Yeah.
covered it with the bridge.
yeah, yeah, I just wanna,
It goes back in.
no problem, just wanna.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying.
Much the same as when we borrow in anticipation of taxes from ourselves.
I
It
was
goes back
back
into the fund we borrowed it from.
Yeah,
Okay.
wanna make sure it doesn't come out of operating cash and then.
Oh, no, that would be bad.
Did
Thank-
you
that's
have-
all.
Yes.
Thank you.
The York rate, was that mine, Nick?
No, that was the York rate for highway, the road size York rate. Yours was paid to, like, a month ago.
Right.
Yes,
We got another, we have a New York rate. for
Yes.
this
yes,
For highway.
yes, because that was the one that started to fail with Bear.
Not a New York rate, just a York rate.
Just a York rate.
New York rate. doesn't work.
New York rate is no good.
Did you say
It's a Vermont York rate.
New York rate.
Okay.
New York rate.
Very
All right,
brief executive
Now we need
session.
a motion to,
Is it just personnel and legal?
Personnel and legal.
personnel and legal matter for the reason for the executive
I'll
session.
make a motion that a premature discussion of a personnel and legal matter would cause our municipality to suffer a significant disadvantage.
Second?
Motion's made by Matt and seconded by Cynthia to determine the reason for the executive session as a personnel and legal matter. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And I'll make a motion to enter into executive session for discussion of personnel and legal matters and to allow town administrator Nick Zias to remain in the room.
Mr. Holly?
Do you need, are you coming too?
Give me the option, please.
Mr. Holly to remain in the room as well.
Second.
Motion's made by Matt and seconded by Cynthia to enter into said executive session and to include Town Administrator Zias and Fire Chief Holly to be in the room. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Can I just take 5 minutes in the executive? Two quick questions.
Sure, so I can amend the motion. Should I rescind it and just redo it altogether?
I just started.
I'll rescind my motion. And I will make a motion to enter into executive session for discussion of a personnel and legal matter and to allow Fire Chief Holly to remain in the room, Town Highway, park person, Supervisor Willie to remain in the room, and Town Administrator
Two of them
Nick.
then.
I don't know, I got
Everybody, come on down.
Come on in. Sorry, it's late.
Second.
Motion made by Matt and seconded by Cynthia to enter into said executive session and include Town Administrator Zias, Fire Chief Holly, and Willie, Park
Supervisor.
to enter the room. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Janet, just write that right.